A farmer understands the needs of every season, and so do Farm Bureau members. When Arkansas families needed electricity, our members brought it. Reliable roads, our members built them. Agricultural education, our members provided. Today's members may not live on a farm, but their connections are as close as ever. So when that difficult season comes, no member has to face it alone. For every season, Arkansas Farm Bureau. Join today.
This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
And good Sunday morning to you. Welcome to this week's edition of Talk Business and Politics. I'm your host, Roby Brock. Joined this morning by 2nd District Republican candidate for Congress, French Hill. Thank you so much for being here this morning. Appreciate you.
Roby, it's always a pleasure to be with you, my friend.
We tried to coordinate getting you and Pat Hayes, your Democratic challenger, together. Schedules didn't allow for it. We're going to have Pat Hayes on later in the month, and so you may get another invitation to come back. How about that?
Excellent. Would love to do it.
All right. Let's talk about some of the big news this past week. On Wednesday night, President Obama making a national speech to a national audience during prime time, talking about the situation in the Middle East. If you're elected to Congress, this is going to be an issue you're going to deal with right off of the bat, more or less. What did you? Let's pull up real quick and remind everybody what the president kind of outlined in terms of his position here. This open-ended campaign for airstrikes in Iraq and Syria, arming fighters on the ground, counterterrorism efforts, and humanitarian aid. Is this complete enough, comprehensive enough as a foreign policy to deal with this ISIS situation?
I don't think we know yet, but I think it's he outlined a comprehensive approach. No doubt, I think Congress will look at it very seriously on a bipartisan basis and consider what the president said. My concern is that this is a problem really of the president's own making by some of the decisions he's taken previously, by not acting in Syria back in 2012 and by not acting with a joint forces agreement with the Maliki government in Iraq. I really think some of the challenges that ISIS has now presenting us, a worldwide clear and present danger, could have been avoided by earlier actions by the Obama administration.
You think it could have been avoided? Just that initial work in 2012 would have kept this from surfacing? Or this is a very powerful jihadist effort here.
It is. You know, this is the root of it is from Al Qaeda in Iraq. That under General Petraeus was defeated in the surge and the Sunni tribal awakening that happened back in 06 and 07 and 08 that we call that whole effort the surge. But then we stood down from working with the Maliki government, and we stood down with all of our resources in Iraq, and I think that gave this power to kernel and get the flame burning, and then they moved their operation over into Syria, giving it a real safe haven to grow, and now you've seen it explode across the Iraqi border with money from their partners across the region. I find it very concerning, and I do believe that it could have been tampened down, reduced, and not grow to the proportion that it has if we'd taken earlier action.
At the same time, we have seen political pressure exerted on members of Congress, on the president, as a nation, people wanting to get out of Iraq, people wanting to get out of the Middle East. I mean, you can't ignore that pressure. And as a representative of the 2nd Congressional District, if you're to be elected, are you going to be willing to buck what maybe public sentiment may be in terms of not putting boots on the ground or having a ramped up presence there if you think that it is important for us to do that?
Well, I think it's important for us to tackle strategically any clear and present danger to the United States. And in my judgment, ISIS is that. I think the president believes that. I think the leadership in the Congress believe that. I think it needs to be watched closely. What we have to always do before we consider any major action involvement by the United States is, number one, is there a clear and present danger to American national security interests that we can feel and see? Number two, do we have a clear and decisive strategy that can win it with overwhelming odds? And that's what I think the Congress will work on with the president vis-a-vis his outline this week. Can we get support from the American people in the Congress to support it? And last but not least, only as a last resort would we engage ground troops in that effort? But we need to watch it carefully to see what resources with our coalition are necessary to defeat this menace.
But don't you think by and large the general public is hesitant to intervene, to have this internationalist type strategy here? We do tend to become pretty isolationist when it comes to putting our own folks in harm's way. I mean, that's a difficult fence to straddle as a representative of the people that may have elected you to office. At the same time, you're going to be engaged with a lot of information that you may not even be able to talk about publicly on this.
Well, I think it's important, and that's the beauty of the House of Representatives. It's close to the people. The founders created it to be close to the people, the boiling cauldron of public opinion, every 2 years to be reelected. And I will stay in close touch with public opinion and what citizens in the 2nd District feel about this issue.
Would you risk not being reelected if it meant doing something that proved to be unpopular in terms of public opinion?
Well, I think Jack Kennedy outlined it well in Profiles in Courage, that he wants leaders to lead. He wants people to bring, you have to be out in front sometimes on important issues that they're of a critical importance to our country. The number one issue that our Congress faces is working with the executive on our national security. And so I think it would be an important effort to make sure that our country is safe, that our national interests are safe.
So yes.
So yes,
All
yeah,
right.
I think you have to do that as an elected member of Congress.
I interrupted you. I give you a chance to finish your train of thought there. You were saying.
I've lost it.
Okay,
Let's go
my
on.
bad. I apologize. Let's shift gears, come back to a more domestic issue, and certainly one that is high profile in the state of Arkansas, and that is the minimum wage.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of quotes here to show some comments you've made previously on the minimum wage. I'm not in favor of increasing the minimum wage, you told KUAR back in June. On a September 6th Democrat Gazette article, spokesman for you said you will vote for the Arkansas minimum wage increase if it can be ensured it doesn't negatively impact Arkansas jobs.
Yeah.
Are you going to vote for this proposal, and what are your concerns about the minimum
thanks.
wage?
Well, on the first quote, it was particularly talking about the federal minimum wage proposal, and I was referring to the Congressional Budget Office concerns and Democrat and Republican economists that were concerned about the level there. What I've done in considering as a voter this Arkansas proposal is, number one, we want everyone in our state earning higher wages. Wages have been flat, and so my view is I would consider voting for this issue if I can be really assured that it's not going to have a material impact on job creation in our state.
What's going to give you that assurance?
Well, I'm going to talk to businesses, I'm going to talk to local economists, I'm going to look at it very carefully and to see if in fact it would not have a material impact as proposed in going to the voters. That's number one. Number two, we have got to get careers, opportunities, and growth back in this economy. And the concern I've picked up from campaigning the past 11 months is we need more jobs and higher incomes for those jobs and those career choices. There are fewer people working today in the 2nd Congressional District of Arkansas than there were 7 years ago. Think of the marriages, think of the babies, think of the graduations from high school. We need more jobs, and we've got fewer jobs than we had 7 years ago. And youth unemployment is particularly high here, and that's concerning.
And that's a 1st, 3rd, and 4th district problem as well. So you're undecided on the state minimum wage proposal at this point in time?
I'm doing my due diligence on it. My statement's absolutely right. I'd like to be able to vote for it. I'm doing my due diligence to see if it will not have a material impact on jobs.
All right. French Hill, he's the Republican 2nd District Congressional candidate. Thank you so much for being
Thanks,
with us
Robbie.
this
Great
morning.
to be with you.
Appreciate
Thanks.
you.